We were talking about dogs just before the break there with the dog father himself, Graham Hall. And I just want to take this further because something that may affect you as a human or your dog is what's known as Lyme disease. And this is making the news at the moment because Justin Bieber, the singer, he's revealed on Instagram that he's been suffering with this Lyme disease.
And I don't really know anyone personally who's got it, but a friend of mine's daughter, who I've never met, said it's ruined her life. It's so debilitating. So
debilitating for Justin Bieber that all the rumour in the showbiz circles was that he had some sort of drug problem. There was this sort of speculation that he was a drug addict or whatever, and he's had to come out and he said, no, look, what I've got is Lyme disease. And I've got Julia Knight now. Good evening to you, Julia.
Good evening, Eamon.
And there is actually Lyme Disease UK, for which you are a spokesperson, Julia. And the thing is, it's just going to be good to get the realisation out there. People could be suffering from this, Julia, without knowing they're suffering from it, couldn't they?
Absolutely. So the more awareness we can raise, then hopefully we can prevent people getting bitten by ticks in the first place. So on our website, LymeDiseaseUK.com, there's lots of information about how to prevent a tick bite or what to do if you do have one.
Right. So where are these ticks likely to be? Would they be all over the country? Is there a proliferation in a certain part of the country? Give me the sort of areas that you're going to catch them, the areas you should avoid or be aware of. Give us the story.
Okay, so ticks are endemic throughout the UK now. So in theory, you can be bitten and contract Lyme all over the UK. There's the Highlands in Scotland and the southwest are particularly high-risk areas. And the ticks live in, we used to think just woodland, but they've been discovered in urban parks as well, even people's gardens. We don't know why they're becoming more and more prevalent. So it's really good to be aware if you're out walking in the countryside, playing sport, to be aware that ticks are a potential disease giver that can, like Justin has described, if not picked up and diagnosed and treated very quickly, which quite often in this country doesn't happen.
Is it curable if you are bitten by a tick and you know you have been bitten by a tick? Do you go and seek treatment from your doctor? What do you do?
Okay, so if you know you've been bitten by a tick and you get some of the signs and symptoms, which I'm happy to go through if that's,
go through them, yeah.
Okay, so if you get bitten by a tick, many people don't even know they've been bitten by a tick because they hang about on a blade of grass, waiting for a meal to come by. You walk by, maybe you've got shorts and flip-flops on, which is not ideal if you're walking in the countryside, hop onto you, or as you brush by, they sort of go onto you. They're looking for a blood meal, so they attach themselves. You won't feel it because they inject a sort of local anaesthetic substance. They find somewhere nice and warm on your body, armpits, groins, behind knees. They attach themselves, take a nice meal of blood, fill themselves up, and just drop off. So, you might not notice you've been bitten by a tick.
But I'll tell you what, when you are bitten, so Jacqueline is saying her friend's daughter, she said her life's ruined by it. We're hearing about Justin Bieber now having to come out and say, look, I don't have a drug addiction. I simply have this Lyme's disease. And we say simply have it. How debilitating is it when you get it?
Right. So if what happens is when somebody gets a bite, a proportion of people after a few days or a few weeks, not immediately like a mosquito bite, they might display a rash. So the rash is generally non-itchy, non-painful, but the characteristic is that it's slowly spread outwards, and they can get quite big. And they can resemble a target or a bullseye, or they can be just a flat, expanding rash. Now, if you see that sign and you think you might have been bitten by a tick, you need to go to the doctors, because that sign is diagnostic for Lyme in itself without any blood tests. However, many people don't get the telltale rash. So what happens then is the bacteria gets into the blood. Quite often, the person will become quite unwell with a flu-like illness, and it doesn't always happen straight away. It can be weeks or months. You can see how difficult this is.
Which would lead to a difficulty in diagnosis, I would have thought, for doctors, and therefore if you don't have the right diagnosis, you're just going to suffer and suffer, and things are going to get worse and worse.
So, like the person you've been speaking to, if it's not picked up and diagnosed, you go to your doctor with these sort of symptoms that get worse and worse, because if it isn't treated quickly, the bacteria spreads around the body and it can affect your nervous system, your heart, your joints. So,
but none of this sounds good. And what you're doing with me, and I know, Jacqueline, I know where you walk your dogs, and you know, when you're there and you're in long grass and all sorts of things like that.
all the time.
Well, that would make me think twice.
Well, how can you not walk your dogs? There's long grass everywhere, isn't
Pavements.
The thing is, if you're aware that ticks are around and you take precautions that from getting bitten, so the trouble is the awareness is not out there. So, for instance, we all go on our holidays, don't we, and take our mozzie repellent with us.
Yeah.
How many of us go walking, or even, you know, playing sport, or in any of the environments you might pick up a tick? How many of us dress appropriately and use some repellent?
Not ever.
Yeah.
Not ever. Well, not in this country, no.
I'm going to wear long johns from now on. It's totally simple.
Tuck your trousers into your socks.
That's what you say. Julia, thank you for talking to us about this. Thanks for talking about the prevention and the areas where it's involved in. Folks, just be more aware of it. Google it. Find out a bit about what Lyme disease is all about and why it's on the spread. Going to take a break. Back with the news, top of the hour.